fabric that I folded in half, and I've given it a press. And now I'm going to fold the raw edges inside each other. So it gives me a rectangle. That's my rectangle shape. Slide the end of my zipper inside that shape. And I'm going to pin it and sew across the edge. So there's my 3, because we're going to do 3 bags, as you know. You can see I've got the ends nice and with a clean finish. So we'll do the first bag, which you've done before. That's the regular one, and then we'll get on to the other 2. Got my pins. So we always start with the exterior fabric, the right side up. And what I'm going to do is I just want to find the center, because I've made a zipper tab. Just going to clip myself a small, tiny notch. Also want to find out where the center is on the zipper. Makes it easier. So this one is slightly different to how we did the other one in class. The reason being, just pin that one in place, is that the edges of the zipper are slightly smaller than the bag, so that when you sew the perimeter at the end, the zipper tabs, because the edges of the zipper are smaller than the bag, you're not sewing over the zipper, so it actually finishes it nicely. So this is a different way to finish it, but still the same bag. So I've cut a little notch in my exterior fabric, and I am lining everything up so I know exactly where the center is. This bit you've done already. We're just pinning as normal. Okay, so here's bag number 1. Apologies if you can hear the cars from outside. I've got the windows open. So, back to bag number 1. As normal, we've got the main fabric on one side, we've got the lining all together, and we have left ourselves an opening, which is here. I have stitched all the way around the perimeter or the edge of the fabric, and then what I have done is I've reduced the seam to remove the bulk, clip the corners, and we're going to turn this one through. I left the zipper open because we need to be able to turn it through, and because I have reduced all the corners, the bag turns through really nice and neatly. And this is a lovely fabric. It was donated from Cornish Curtains in Falmouth by the lovely Caroline. She always donates us some stunning fabrics. So this originally was a pair of curtains, and I have unpicked it, and now we're going to reuse it and we're going to make bags out of it. As we said earlier, we've got 7 in total to make. This is going to be the first 3, with the final 4 being made in the consecutive video. So I'm pushing my corners right the way through. The inside of the lining, you've got an opening there. You can hand stitch that closed. Things to note, if you look at the zipper tabs on the edge, it's finished nice and neatly. The width of my zipper tab is actually about 1 centimetre, so I can still put my hand in. And that is the first one finished. So let's do the second one. So we're on bag number 2. I have added my zipper in the same way that we add them with the other bag. And what we're going to do this time is we want both our lining pieces together and both of our, all right, Asdavan, go on, and both of our exterior fabrics. So just to, as a recap, that's my 2 exterior fabrics right sides together. That is my 2 lining pieces right sides together. Another car going past. This time what we're going to do is we are going to sew 1 centimetre all the way only on the shorter edge of the exterior fabric. So it's 1 centimetre back stitch, sew your 1 centimetre back stitch at the end. The shorter side of the lining, you can see I've got both my pieces together. We're going to start from the edge, back stitch 1/3 of the way in, so we'll stop because we need to leave ourselves an opening. And I always annotate my openings by a T. That tells me that that's the gap I have to leave open. So like I said, back stitch to the T mark and then back stitch to finish. And what I do is I jump over to the next side, back stitch, and continue on my journey. So let's do that. So I've got my opening here, and basically what I have made myself is kind of like a little tunnel. And what we're going to do now is we want the seam to line up with the centre of the zipper. So if you have a look, the seam of the last seam that we did, the outer seam, is going to line up with the centre of the zipper. How do I know it's in place? Because I'm using this stitch line. And we're going to pin that. And then I'm going to check to make sure the other side is correct. And I'm going to pin it down. The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to line up the lining. So the lining, the seam that we've just stitched, all three of them line up with the zipper. So it means that the zipper's kind of in the centre of this tunnel. I'm just going to move my pin to hold all the layers in place. There's my pin. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to sew 1 centimetre along each edge. So 1 centimetre along the top edge, make sure you back stitch at both ends, and along the bottom edge. So what I've done to make it easier, I have drawn a pen mark over the blue line, which is my seam allowance of 1 centimetre. So I drew myself a line to tell me that's my seam allowance, and then I stitched along that line as we said, and I did the same with the other side. And now what I've done is I measured myself a 2.5 centimetre square of card. And this is where we're going to start boxing our corners. So what we do is we use the card, line it up at the edge of the fabric, and draw ourselves a little box. The next thing we need to do is to box the corners. So what I've done is I have ironed all my fabric seams. Just giving this a good iron. And now I'll start making my box corners. So to make the box corners, it's easier when everything's ironed flat, because you can see the centre of where you're going to line all the fabrics up. So start with the outer fabric. You can see the L shape. Pinch the two sides. That will open it up, and you are matching it up to the corner seam. And then what you're going to do is turn it round. Pinch the two lining fabrics, so you're going to make the lining so you're going to make the lining and the exterior box corners both at the same time. So it is a bit fiddly, but if you do it, you do both. You do the lining and the outer fabric. The corners are done all at the same time. So I do two in the opposite corner. It makes it easier. So I always start, pinch the fabrics, and I've got that seam to match up with this seam. Just try and pull everything out the way. Turn it round. Then you're going to do the lining. So I've got the fold lined up with the edge of the seam. The fold on the exterior, it's just come apart. Position it back. There we go. Trick is to make sure that everything lines up together. Pin it and then sew across, and make sure that you've got all the fabrics together nice and neat, because this will create the box shape for the pouch. Here's a close-up of the corner, so you can see the L shape. There it is, pinching the two sides, that's one corner in. So I've got the lining now. Got the two sides pinched of the lining in between my thumb and my middle finger. Let's turn it round just to make sure it's positioned correctly. That's it. And you want to make sure that all the edges are nice and straight. And you're ready to sew. Got all my corners. All my corners are nice and neat. And I'm just checking to make sure that I've caught both of the fabrics in, which I have. So first thing to do is to turn it so that the lining is on the outside. And then, because you've got your zipper open, just reopening mine, you're going to turn the whole bag the right way out. And I'm just going to put my hand through the lining and push all the corners out. And that's my second bag. So remember the first one that we did in class? Here's the second one, and you can see it's got more of a boxy shape. And then we've got one more to show you. So similar to the first bag, we have, let's turn it round this way. I have left an opening there, and I have stitched around the perimeter and back and finished back stitching here. As we talked about, we've got the opening. Here's where things change. I've got my 2.5 centimetre square that we talked about before, and I'm lining it up with the edge of the seam where I pivoted that corner. So you can see where I've got it up, lined up with the edge here. And I'm going to draw a box in there, same as we did actually with the other one. So we're just going to draw ourselves a little box shape in, because we're going to box the corners of this one, but the shape of the bag will be slightly different. So box your corners in, box the corners in, box the corners in, box the corners in. This time what we're going to do, we're going to box each one of the corners separately. So pinch the fabric, and you're lining both of the seams up together. And you can see I flatten the seams to make it easier for when I'm sewing. And I'm going to pin across. Same thing again, pinch each side of the fabric, line the seams up and pin it. Here's where the magic happens. Same thing as before, we need to turn the bag through. But this time we're going to turn it right the way to the outside. But because I've boxed my corners, I need to make sure I'm pushing the two corners out. See, I've got my zipper tab there. And we're done. So here's all three. Let me know which one you're going to make.